Good evening and welcome to the March 6th meeting of Troy City Council. I'm Marty Baker, President of Council. Please silence your electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We will begin this evening with the invocation by Mr. John Schweizer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Tony Simons of the St. Patrick Boy Scout Troop 365. Tony is working on his communication badge. Tony, if you'll come forward to the microphone. And Mr. Schweizer, if you will lead us in the invocation, please stand.
Let us pray. Lord, we are blessed to be able to assemble here tonight under the flag of freedom and the sacrifice of brave women and men. Guide us in our thoughts and deeds so that we may live up to what so many have given. We ask that you protect those who are serving abroad and those who protect us here at home. Lord, help us to realize that though many things are beyond our control, nothing is beyond yours. To all this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Here.
Mr. Twist.
Here.
Mr. Heath.
Here.
Mrs. Snee. Here. Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Swayzer.
Here.
Mrs. Oda.
Here.
Mr. Tremblay.
Yes, here.
Mr. Kendall.
Here.
All members are present.
Tonight we have a public hearing on Resolution R22, 2017. Mrs. Knight, please read that resolution.
Resolution number R22, 2017, resolution approving application of Neal Farms, Inc., a.k.a. Neal Brothers, Incorporated, Neal Moore Farms, LLC, and Martin Neal to retain land in an agricultural district.
I now declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the resolution? If so, please come to the microphone. State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Philip Neal. Live at 4015 Experiment Farm Road. I'm speaking in favor of the approval for the Ag District to the City of Troy. I guess that's how it works from the auditor, I guess. That's about it. I just want to be in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the resolution? I declare the public hearing closed. This will now go to a committee of the Law and Ordinance Committee. Chairman, Mr. Schweizer, have you set a meeting for that, or time for that meeting?
Yes, ma'am. Next Monday at 4:30 p.m.
Okay. So Monday at 4:30 p.m. will be a meeting on this topic. Mrs. Knight, please read a summary of the minutes of the February 21st meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of Council, February 21, Committee Reports, Finance Committee, recommended legislation be prepared stating opposition to the governor's budget. Personnel Committee reported regarding a reappointment to the Miami County Board of Health, and the reappointment of Ted Ristoff was approved. Streets and Sidewalks Committee recommended legislation be prepared to reflect ODOT will be involved in the funding participation for the State Route 41 Signal Interconnect project. Committee recommended legislation be prepared to authorize a contract for the 2016 or 2017 corner ramp project. Resolution number R16, 2017, the corner ramp project bidding was given first reading and adopted. Resolution number R17, 27, Ohio Department of Transportation agreement regarding a traffic signal interconnect project, first reading and adopted. Resolution R18, 2017, opposing the governor's budget, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 06, 2017, releasing mortgage lien, Roy and Jean Baker as loan paid off, first reading and adopted. Following various comments, council adjourned at 7:22 p.m.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move that we accept the minutes as read.
A second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to accept the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Schweizer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
We'll begin the committee reports tonight with the Community and Economic Development Committee and Chairman, Mr. William Twist.
Thank you, Madam President. This committee met on February 27th to consider the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission that council accept the dedication of .310 acres of right-of-way of existing in Lot 7833 located at 3035 McKeag Road. It is our recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared accepting the dedication of .310 acres of right-of-way currently part of in-lot 7833 located at 3035 McKeag Road, and that is respectfully submitted. Tom Kendall, John Schweizer, and myself as Chair, William Twist.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Twist. The next report is from Chairman, Mr. Kendall, and the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. This committee met on February 27th to review the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Council regarding the compliance status of the Troy Town TIF and the 6 enterprise zone agreements that were in place as of December 31st, 2016. Such review and report is required on an annual basis. The TIRC has recommended that the TIF agreements be continued, that agreement number 29 be terminated as it has expired, and that the remaining 5 enterprise zone agreements be continued as all agreements are in full compliance. This committee recommends that legislation be prepared accepting the recommendation of the TIRC, that 5 enterprise zone agreements, 28, 33, 34, 35, and 36, be continued as they are in full compliance, that agreement number 29, Ishmael Precision Tool Corporation, be terminated as the agreement has expired, and that the Troy Town TIF be continued, in that the city must file an annual report with the Ohio Development Services Agency by the end of March regarding the continuance of the agreements in the TIF. We support emergency legislation, and this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Schweizer, Mr. Tremblay, and myself as chairman.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Do you have anything further, Mr. Kendall?
No, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The Streets and Sidewalks Committee has the next report from Chairman Bobby Phillips.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee members Snee and myself met on February 21 to consider the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission that the City of Troy Complete Streets policy be approved. As discussed in the detailed report, the city's proposed policy conforms to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission Complete Streets policy. There are a number of benefits of having this policy in place, including meeting criteria when the city is seeking federal and state funding administered through MVRPC. It was also discussed that this is a fluid plan to be implemented where possible and feasible with new construction, reconstruction, or development, but it will not result in a new capital construction program. The policy is also to be reviewed every 2 years so it adapts to adjustments as necessary. It was the recommendation of the committee that we follow the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission and support it with legislation and prepare that legislation to adopt the Complete Streets policy of the City of Troy. This is respectfully submitted by Mr. Heath, Mrs. Snee, and myself as chair.
Are there any questions from council?
I have a couple of questions, Madam
Mrs. Oda?
President. Patrick, what kind of, looking for the word here, federal and state funding would we be getting that the MVRPC would want this in place?
There are several different pots of money that become that are annually available related to congestion mitigation, surface transportation. They all come from federal dollars. One of those pots of money is also the transportation enhancement funding, which supports alternative forms of transportation. It's a smaller pot. It's much more competitive, and so having a complete streets as part of our comprehensive plan, it's looked on more favorably when we try to apply for grants like that. In addition, from time to time, there are some capital grants that might become available on a limited basis. And certainly having a long-range plan such as this in place makes us look better, maybe compared to other applications that are out there.
So it kind of feels like they're holding us hostage and requiring that we have this in order to get funds from them.
Well, I don't want to say this, I'm trying to be nice since it's Lent. That's pretty much the norm with just about everything that we do when we are asking those higher than us for funding. There's just one additional string that they like to pull. And it's not just this. You know, it's with regards to many other grants that and asks that we make.
Forget that I'm a council person. As a resident, I'm concerned that we're going to lose lanes like we did on Adams Street. Can you say that that's not going to happen, or does any of this, I know you said in the committee meeting, none of this comes back to council. Once we pass this policy, we never see it again. And are we just going to see lanes disappear and become bike lanes?
Well, I don't think that's exactly what I said, Councilwoman. As a matter of regular changes that we might make, which are not going to be that often, that is true. That those things don't come back to council. That's an administrative function. Goes through the mayor's office, my office, and is an administrative matter. However, number one, whenever we do those kind of things, we are consulting with traffic engineers, our traffic engineer, as well as in the case of state highways, for example, we're consulting with ODOT. So nothing that we're going to do is going to be against warrants, standards, regulations, et cetera. Number two, when these kind of changes we want to implement are part of larger construction projects where you authorize the bidding then those will come back to the council.
So we would be aware of the cost of implementing a complete streets policy with bike lanes.
Yes, they're going to be, they're really going to be minimal when we're talking about share roads where it's just a bike sharing a road and maybe there's a stencil that we're painting on the road, or even striping off like we did on Adams Street. Those costs are minimal. Where there would be costs associated is if we are extending the bike path system, because then we are getting into construction projects that will have to go through the council, and in some cases could involve other agencies like Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, MVRPC, and goes back to that federal grant discussion that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm. Are all roads already shared roads? Are bicycles pretty much allowed on any road?
They're not technically share roads. Share roads is a category above just using the surface streets based on the state and the local laws, where bicyclists share the roads with vehicles. Share roads is a slightly higher level, just in terms of protections and some of the new regulations that have come out. For example, where a driver has to give at least 3 feet when going around. There's certain designations that kind of raise the level a little bit.
Okay. All right. And I know I've already asked this at the committee meeting also, but I'm going to raise it again. Can Adams Street not be a shared road? and open that lane back up to
It
traffic?
is not a shared road, it is a dedicated bike lane.
Can it be a
And
shared road?
No, it is part of our plan to link our bike routes from Duke Park, Community Park, North Adams Street. If you look at the map with your complete streets policy, then you will be able to go across Foss Way to Market Street, north, once the Phase 2 project is done, and then south as part of the route back to the high school.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Do you have anything further, Mr. Phillips?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. We now open the meeting to citizen comments. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Kerber is our timekeeper. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments related to any of the agenda items this evening? If so, please come to the microphone and state your name and address before addressing council.
Lester Connor, 1210 South Clay Street, Troy, Ohio. We have over 25,000 people here in Troy now, and just by driving a car on our streets is becoming a problem. Especially if you're on a side street trying to get on a main drag. I mean, some of the lights and everything, they seem like some of them are longer than others, but I mean, and now wanting to designate part of that road for bicycles just doesn't seem to me that it's the safest way to go for the people driving cars or the people riding bicycles. And myself personally, I don't see that many people riding bicycles in Troy other than when the bicycle people come into Troy and ride around and everything. Other than that, I don't see that many bicycles. And it would probably help on these bicycles if maybe the police would stop them when these kids and stuff aren't obeying the rules and regulations of riding a bicycle in the street. Maybe that would make them even better drivers when they get behind the wheel of a car, knowing enough the regulations had to be obeyed. So I really don't see the need of all these bicycles in town. Maybe you could make a section somewhere else off to the side of the sidewalk or something for the bicycles rather than using up our roads. And then from some of the designs I've seen, it seems to me like you really want to make it awful fancy for bicycles. I mean, that's part of the problem, I mean, in this world today. Fancy, I mean, when money is, is an issue, you gotta spend the money like it's your own money instead of the taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience with any comments at this point in the meeting? We'll move on then to resolutions and ask Mrs. Knight to read Resolution R-19, 2017.
Resolution number R-19, 2017, resolution accepting the recommendations of the Tax Incentive Review Council and declaring an emergency. This is the annual review of the enterprise zone agreements, first reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Schweizer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Schweizer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R-20, 2017.
Resolution accepting the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Council for the Troy Town Park TIF and declaring an emergency. This is the annual review of the TIF agreement, was found to be in compliance, first reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Tremblay and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Schweizer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schweizer and seconded by Mr. Twist to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R21, 2017.
Resolution number R21, 2017, resolution adopting the City of Troy, Ohio Complete Streets Policy as part of the City of Troy Comprehensive Plan. This has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission, first reading.
Are there any comments or questions from council?
I'd like to request this go to another reading.
Okay. Without objection? Okay, this will go to another reading then. Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R22, 2017.
Resolution number R22, 2017, resolution approving application of Neal Farms, Inc., a.k.a. Neal Brothers, Inc., Neal Moore Farms, LLC, and Martin Neal to retain land in an agricultural district. This is the first reading. It's had a public hearing this evening. A committee meeting has been established, and this is the second 5-year application. First reading.
Okay, this will go to a second reading. Move on to ordinances and ask Mrs. Knight to read Ordinance 07, 2017.
Ordinance number 07, 2017, ordinance accepting the dedication of a right-of-way. This is along McCaig Road, has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission, first reading.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay.
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee? Yes. Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schweizer and seconded by Mr. Twist to adopt the ordinance. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee? Yes. Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Ordinance 08, 2017.
Ordinance number 08, 2017, an ordinance enacting Section 1149.13 of the zoning code of the City of Troy, Ohio, related to cultivators and processors of medical marijuana within the City of Troy, Ohio. This has been recommended by the Troy Planning Commission. We'll have a public hearing at March 20th meeting, and this is the first reading.
This will go to a second reading. Mrs. Knight, please read Ordinance 09, 2017.
Ordinance number 09, 2017, an ordinance amending Section 1143.16 of the zoning code of the City of Troy, Ohio, and enacting Section 1149.14 of the zoning code of the City of Troy, Ohio, related to retail dispensaries of medical marijuana within the City of Troy, Ohio. This ordinance establishes the dispensaries at one only in the B4 district as recommended by the Troy Planning Commission. We'll have a public hearing at the March 20th meeting. This is the first reading.
And this will also go to a second reading. That completes the business portion of tonight's meeting. Mrs. Knight, are there any communications or announcements?
Yes, there are. The reminder about financial disclosure statements. Also, the county has returned to the city the Philpott annexation. It now is in a 120-day period, the first 60 days of which there is no action on it.
Thank you. Mayor Beamish, do you have any comments for us this evening?
No comments.
Director of Public Service and Safety, Mr. Titterington, comments this evening?
Just to let everyone know that the Dye Mill facility is now open. We opened a little early, as well as we have expanded the hours. So we're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 11 to 7, and also on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will remain closed on Wednesday and Sunday for maintenance and, I guess, the Sabbath. That's all I have, thank you.
All right, thank you. Director of Law, Mr. Kerber?
I have nothing this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. City Auditor, Mr. Friggy?
Thank you, Madam President. I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Are there any comments from council members? Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to invite the public, March 16th, there will be an open house at the Miami Shores Golf Course. This is March 16th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We will be talking about Operation Recreation, the income tax initiative that'll be on the May 2nd ballot. We will be have all of the poster boards of all of the projects out there for your perusal. A lot of discussion about the golf course itself because it will be at that location. They will have our director of golf will be out there and many of the staff personnel to answer questions, particularly about the golf facility. However, there will be members of Operation Recreation there to answer questions about their particular sport, whether it's baseball, softball, football, soccer, and skating and the like. But we do want the public to come on out and look at the proposals and ask any questions that they may have, and we'd love to have you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Are there any comments from city staff this evening? Any comments from the audience?
Carol Overmeyer, 215 Carriage Crossing, and the development. Just recently, the pond was redone. New rocks were put in, and all the weeds were pulled, and all of us at Carriage Crossing just want to say thank you. It was there for 20 years, and it needed a little attention, and we appreciate it. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone in the audience?
Dr. Connor, 1210 South Clay Street, Troy, Ohio. I read the article that Mr. Titherton wrote in the paper about the state of Ohio and versus the city of Troy on collection of taxes on the businesses. Now, I have the job of deciding which one has more facts in it than lies. It's going to be very complicated for me, being just a citizen in Troy, but from my own experience of having my taxes done over at the library through ARP, we was told, and this has been several years ago, that ARP would no longer do the city taxes for the residents of Troy. And I asked the question, well, why? And they said the answer we got was, we can get more money out of the people with our calculations, our formula, than what ARP does. And I'm thinking, what? That doesn't make sense. So only thing I'm thinking, is there a surcharge that the city charges on the city taxes that ARP doesn't do? Or what really is going on? Or why is there so much, you know, I hate to think it's going to turn down like some of the politics we're hearing now, that it's not really truth, but it's not really a fib. It's just alternated rules and regulations and statutes and so on and so forth. So I don't understand. I mean, they said it would save Troy $105,000 by going through the state and using their plan. And Mr. Tillon says, no, we're going to lose money by it. So, you know, now I got to find out in my mind and figure out who's telling the most truth in this, them two articles. Any response to this?
Mr. Titterington, do you care to make any comments?
I think my article was pretty comprehensive. I think what the state is failing to mention is that what they are asking the legislature to do, they being the governor, is to centralize collections of only one of three types of income tax that municipalities collect. By doing that, they know full well that the city cannot cut the staff that they're talking about. They would save us. In addition to that, we did a little research and found that in the last 3 years alone with one company, because we audit every tax return in Troy, we found nearly $1 million in incorrect filings that we would have lost had we not done that audit and then followed up with the business. That is something that even the state tax commissioner admits the state does not do. They do not audit a fraction of the returns, let alone every single one. So when their rhetoric is that they're going to save $9 million across the state to all municipalities, that's just a fantasy. I mean, there's no easy way to say that.
Well, you could have said BS.
Well, it's Lent.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience have any comments or questions this evening? Seeing none, thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Have a safe and peace-filled week. Meeting adjourned.